Cars. This is a franchise that I grew up on alongside the likes of Angry Birds and Sonic the Hedgehog, and I've garnered even more of an appreciation for it as time went on, to the point that I genuinely consider this franchise, or at least these movies, to be superior to Toy Story in every way. Yes, really. So I'd like to explain why that's the case. In this video, I will discuss the first movie, and what makes it work so well, even 20 years later. 20 years later, holy crap, that's 2 decades. Now, I was going to release this video earlier, but due to procrastination and time constraints, I sadly couldn't. But I think now is the time for me to do so. And hey, it's still 2026, good timing, am I right? From its story, to its characters, to its themes, and all the superficial stuff that makes this movie great, I'm going to talk about what makes this movie an excellent watch for all ages alike. Now, I guess I could also compare this to Toy Story because I do have plans to make a retrospective on that franchise as well. Now, allow me to showcase what makes this one of Pixar's best. Also, here's a couple of disclaimers because I'm pretty sure someone out there is going to be wondering if they're there. Also, friendly reminder that this video is mainly based around my own opinions, and if you want to talk about your own feelings about cars, then you may as well put it down in the comments. I'd be very interested to see them. Anyway, spoiler warning. Let's get on with it now. The story is genuinely a massive, pleasant surprise, given how slow the movie can be. But the slow pacing of the movie is actually a good thing here, and it's because of the story that the movie wants to tell, as well as the messaging that comes with it. The traffic light is always yellow, which is a subtle reference to how we should slow down with life. Understand that it isn't always about the end game. It can be about the journey as well, because oftentimes the journey is just as important, if not more so. The reason the story works is because it's well executed, well written, the characters are likable and or entertaining, and it doesn't completely and utterly bash you over the head with it. I won't go super in depth with the characters, well, most of them anyway, but I will get into how the story plays out as is and why it works so well, and complement its message as well. Something that the kids can come home out of the movie with, even if they were my age when I first watched the movie. This movie does not feel shallow or boring throughout its runtime, as when it's slow, it's for a thematic reason, and for McQueen's character growth. And when it's fast, it's to keep things going and exciting so that they don't drove off to sleep, never just pointless excitement. The point being that it also goes to show that movies can be slow without being boring. It can be done to build on character or direct into a character psychologically, and other things. If anything, it proves the story cares more about advancing McQueen's character arc and him as a character, as well as the residence in Radiator Springs, than getting into the race stuff. Then again, the whole character stuff was more important than the race stuff anyway, so that makes sense. Even as a wee little child, I was able to pick up on this easily. I was never bored by the slow parts of the movie, and that's because the dialogue itself was at worst okay and masterful at best. The exposition never feels like it's bashing you over the head. Really think about it. This movie would have just been so much worse if it was constantly spoon-feeding the message to you. Especially when Sally tells McQueen Radiator Springs' backstory, it was implemented in a way that doesn't feel like it's forced. Think about it. It was also shown to us. It's a believable origin for this small town, and it could perfectly explain why it feels mostly empty. Plus, there aren't too many scenes that the movie wants to pace in between the fixing the road stuff or the racing stuff, and it feels like they only wanted to focus on one plot, and that's it. No major or distracting subplots, just focus on the story of a self-obsessed rookie gaining different and better priorities other than his main goal of winning a major championship race. And this is maybe the most clever thing with the world of this franchise, telling such a story with cars of all things, which is absolutely insane, yet very smart, because cars go fast. I also think the message would just be all fumbled if the pacing was slower. If the movie was just slower in general, then the message wouldn't exactly work really well, let alone the movie. Now, I did mention something about the world building, and I'm going to be very honest with you. That brings me into my next point. Oh boy, I can't wait to go under fire with this. But I'm about to answer the question of why are they cars. It's quite an easy question when you put thought into it. It's because it's more interesting, and given the story the movie wants to tell, it makes complete perfect sense. And besides, I know the world looks like us humans, but sometimes car-themed. Well, actually, it's fully car-themed. But they do go all out with the car theming, with Radiator Springs having a creative and unique design. And don't even get me started on the racing, because after all, you can't have a movie about anthropomorphic cars without having racing in it. And I like how the bleachers are designed, plus the courtroom having no seats, because cars can't use seats. It's little details like these that make the world building feel lived in, and like the animators made sure to have the world more interesting and not just feel like discount our world. I mean, the world building isn't as good as in the sequels, but it's still really solid and natural. I don't understand why the hate for the world building, when it goes out of its way to establish why it would make perfect sense, given the cars are the human equivalent of their world. The world still feels quite similar to ours, except more appropriate for the people who inhabit it. There is literally an oil cafe, which is quite epic because how else would cars drink? I was never bothered by the world building, even as an 18-year-old nowadays, because of how seamless it all is. It's crazy to think how I am absolutely amazed by a fucking desert of all things. Now, all this world building and thematic meaning talk is one thing, but if that's where it ends, then why is the video still going? Well, I do want to finally get to the real meaning of the movie. Lightning McQueen is genuinely one of the best Pixar protagonists, and I refuse to hear otherwise. You can have your Woody or your Mr. Incredible until the cows come home, but their stories pale in comparison to McQueen's. Well, okay, Mr. Incredible is just as good as McQueen, and Woody... He started off insufferable, so it makes complete sense in my opinion on this character compared to McQueen. But anyways, McQueen has his best character arc in this movie, and it's steadily shown to us throughout the entire movie as we follow him into Radiator Springs and then back on the racetrack. But we can't have a great character arc without why he has said arc being established well in the beginning, and lucky enough, this movie has that as well. Well in the beginning. Enough for you to actually care. We see McQueen in the opening, and we see him be dismissive and a jerkwad, even though it is toned down and not played up extremely, so he remains a likable jerk. I mean, compared to Kuzco, who's a likable jerk because he's really funny and charismatic, and he has humility like 6 feet under, in McQueen's case, he does still have admiration for racers like the King, but other than that, he only really takes interest in himself, to the point where his pit crew quits, and he also looked down on rusty cars at the time for being, well, rusty, and that's it.
I hate rusty cars. This is not good for my image.
They did give you your big break. Besides, it's in your contract.
Oh, will you stop, please? Just go get hooked up.
At one point at his sponsorship tent, he's very clearly uninterested whatsoever, and he's just phoning in what he's saying when he's trying to do a motivational speech. And it's not just that. When the King tries to give McQueen a lecture about how this isn't a one-man show, he starts daydreaming about Auraforming in a Dinoco sponsorship. It's also implied that in the beginning, McQueen isn't exactly one for keeping promises, because despite telling Mac that he'll stay awake with him all night, he goes right to sleep. Although I think this was an accidental, but still. But let's be honest, he wouldn't end up in Radiator Springs if he just let Mac take a rest. Because if he had the common sense to let Mac take a break, instead of just driving to no end until he arrives at California, then a bunch of road cars wouldn't have fucked around with Mac, which would cause McQueen to fall out of him. You see what I mean? The plot starts kicking in thanks to McQueen's hubris. And that's what the movie does so well. The whole plot kicks in, and it's thanks to McQueen. He ends up in a situation because he only thought about getting there quick, instead of doing the logical thing, and giving up arriving quick as possible so that neither of them can risk being sleep deprived or weary driving. And before anyone asks, yes, I know, he ended up lost, confused, and panicking, and I do feel bad for him there, but you have to remember, no matter how bad you feel for him, just know he brung this upon himself, and this may as well be the world teaching him humility. McQueen then ends up in Radiator Springs and gets sent to court the next day because he destroyed the road by complete accident. And before that, we meet the best character.
Where am I?
Morning, Sleeping Beauty! Boy, I was wondering when you was gonna wake up.
And everyone is more focused on the road getting fucked over than hearing him out. Okay, I think my biggest gripe with the movie is that nobody gives him a chance to explain what happened, but to be fair, it is sort of made up for because Doc was going to let him off free due to McQueen being a race car. But then Sally came in, and after she does an epic speech that actually justifies putting McQueen being in community service to fix the road, everyone agrees to have McQueen fix the road under Doc's supervision. I do personally think the whole shooting down thing was because this is meant to be the sentence for destroying the road. But McQueen fixed the road real shoddily.
It looks awful.
You know, matches the rest of the town.
And then Doc beats him in a race in order to dampen his ego. And he was smart, because he made this a dirt race, and McQueen canonically never had one before this. Dang, looks like he should have just turned right to go left. Or not, maybe go a little slower. Funny how that works. Over time, he befriends the locals after warming up to them while doing community service, and he gets a serious reality check from Doc.
Your big rack in 54.
They quit on me. When I finally got put together, I went back expecting a big welcome. You know what they said? Your history. Moved right on to the next bookie standing in line. There was a lot left in me. I never got a chance to show them. I keep that to remind me never to go back. I just never expected that world would find me here.
Hey, look, Doc, I'm not them.
Oh, yeah?
No, I'm not.
When is the last time you cared about something except yourself, Hot Rod? You name me one time, and I will take it all back. Uh-huh. I didn't think so.
You see how this entire character arc works? They paced it to happen gradually, slowly but surely, and we see him change over the course of the entire movie. Plus, McQueen actually listens with interest when Sally tells him the history of Radiator Springs, and how she got here as well, with him growing to actually think of this town and no longer see it as And even before his character development, McQueen actually had believable good qualities that helped his case of being a likable character, even back when he was a dick. Because whereas Chick Hicks is just a straight up asshole and a cheating prick who's willing to critically injure an old man who's almost retired, by the way, McQueen, even back then, at least raced fairly and respected his elders, at least racing elders, because he got ecstatic after learning about Doc's past until he got exposition dumped, and has at least enough respect to not completely and utterly cause him to crash. After fixing the road, McQueen even stays for an extra day so that Radiator Springs can have a bit of business back. And then he gets picked up by Mac in used cars because Doc somehow was able to give them a call, but upon regretting this decision, he and the rest of McQueen's new friend group become his pit crew. And McQueen locks in upon seeing them again, and then Chick Hicks sends the King into a crash, and McQueen gives up the race to help the King cross the finish line for his last race. Growing up is realizing what this moment meant. This one moment warrants so much emotional investment because you can see that it all came full circle. McQueen has truly grown, and he even turns down Dinoco for Radiator Springs, and he helps revitalize the town because he's staying there. And Chick Hicks gets booed off.
About, hey, how come the only one celebrating is me, huh?
And Maynard gets to be on a helicopter, how cute. And yeah, that's his entire character arc. And before anyone asks, yes, I did take a look at the Cars Origins book, and I know that the reason McQueen started off arrogant in a one-man show was because he was betrayed by an old friend. Honestly, this makes his arc better, because it proves that sometimes jerks have reasons or bad experiences as to why they are the way they are. It's nice to see they made sure to keep continuity with the first movie while writing this book. But back to my point, this progression is steady, and we see how it all plays out because of his behavior throughout the movie changing. And this character growth carries into the rest of the franchise, including the spin-off stuff.
And I would have beat you. I could have won it all. I could have been the champ. I could
You could have been a better racer, but you weren't. Chick, there's more to racing than winning at all costs. The best racers are part of a team, something beyond themselves. The sooner you learn that, the sooner you won't be alone anymore.
Ah! This isn't over yet.
But Lightning is not even the best character of this movie. And now, we cut to the real stars of the show here. Mater is a big example of this, even if I do have less to say about him here, or 3, than I do in Cars 2. He's really funny, and a loyal friend, who also happens to be intelligent, even though he's not the brightest. He plays a part in McQueen's character arc, because the latter started off hating rusty cars, and through his growing friendship with Mater, he starts not being so prejudiced toward them anymore because of how he now sees him as an actual friend. Plus, they have genuine fun, and it's actually believable that they do. And a lot of it is shown in the scene where they both go tractor tipping. And speaking of Mater, he and all the side characters have so much charm and personality than some fictional characters can manage in much more screen time. I guess that's what happens when you have great acting and writing to back up your characters. And that carries on to the next 2 characters we will get into. I will not sugarcoat this. Doc is the most realized character in this movie, and he even has a bit of an arc of his own. After one racing crash, he was kicked out of the racing scene, which basically just goes to show how cutthroat and unsympathetic the competitive scene can be. This made him a stoic, stubborn old man, or car in this case, who also understands how the racing scene isn't just glam, winning, trophies, and excitement and all that other stuff. At first, he only teaches McQueen out of spite, which, to be fair, does succeed in humiliating him, but the latter actually decides to try getting that turn, and Doc actually sees this, much to his surprise. At first, Doc did not have faith in him after what happened in his past. Plus, younger generation race cars shiz, and you actually understand his perspective through both showing and telling. And when he doxes McQueen and he gets picked up, only then does he regret it because he then sees the impact he's had on Radiator Springs, and how in different ways they needed each other, and he decides to become the new crew chief. However, it's not one-sided, because to him, his piston cups are just empty trophies, and yeah, they kind of are, honestly. This eventual mentorship even extends to the other 2 movies, even if not that vocally. Cars 2 gives him a bit of mention in his honor, and Cars 3 shows how they've been before Doc passed away in the form of flashbacks and other things. After his voice actor died, Pixar understood that he too should pass away by the time Cars 2 begins. And what we got of him, everything was perfect. He serves as someone who's been there and knows about how one accident or one bad event can change everything. And he soon passes his experience to McQueen. Now, all these friendly faces have certainly been pleasant to know of, but we still have one major character to discuss, and in my mind, he is the perfect parallel to our protagonist. Without Chick Hicks, this story would not work nearly as well. He serves as the perfect asshole rival, and the perfect parallel to McQueen, and what he could have been in another possible timeline or future. Chick is someone willing to do what he can to win, even though it often involves critical injury and causing lots of NASCAR-style crashes, and not having any filter on his dialogue, and just straight up insulting and laughing about it. He's pretty much a realistic shithead, honestly. And while we see McQueen grow as a character, and by the time we see the final race we see how different they are from each other now, Chick remains the bigger jerk throughout the whole film. He's such a petty villain, and that's so awesome. And he actually wins in the end. Sort of. Yeah, he didn't really because everyone booed him off, and because they saw him cause the king into a crash, and they saw McQueen assist him into finishing the race. They were more in horror in this case, because that's a racing legend who's almost retired right there. Talk about disrespecting your elders. His design is also perfect, from the moustache to the green contrasting McQueen's red, and the many apparent sponsor stickers that seem to slow him down a little. And then there's the absolutely masterful voice work by Michael Keaton, and how, like the rest of the characters, he has all these little details that add up for him. And then there's also the simplicity of Chick Hicks' character. Villains don't always have to be complex or anything. They just have to be fun, entertaining, maybe even mean something for the story. And that's what Chick Hicks is. He is definitely one of the greatest asshole villains to ever exist, and definitely one of the greatest parallel villains to ever exist. And that's my feelings on the Cars 1 movie. Be sure to feel free to comment whenever you want to. And also, yeah, I know my points were pretty quick, but to be honest, this wasn't meant to be some super big deep dive or whatever. This was just meant to be a quick retrospective video on the first movie of one of my favorite franchises of all time, at least when it comes to film. Now, I would move on to Cars 2 next, but I still have another old friend I want to talk about first. I'll see you all then, and remember, stay funky, like and subscribe, and please spread this video around along with my other ones. I would greatly appreciate if you do.
Radio is fucking dead!
What just happened?